Okay, so next speaker is Dr. Lee Ashton. He is a postdoctoral researcher in the Priority Research Centre for Physical Activity and Nutrition. Lee has a mixed background, exercise science and nutritional epidemiology. You can ask him later if you want to know what that means. Once you hear him talk, you're going to know why I invited him, because I could pretty much listen to Lee talk about anything. But tonight he is talking about one of my favourite things, which is busting nutrition myths. So if I don't come back after his talk, it's because I'm swooning. So Dr. Lee, to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm a nutrition researcher, and part of my job is trying to find out which foods are good and bad for you. Now, as a researcher, we try to use evidence-based information to make an informed decision of whether something is healthy or isn't. Now, the problem is, although researchers use evidence-based information, they are absolutely terrible at communicating their findings. So we'll present at academic conferences to other academics, and we'll present our findings in academic journals to other academics. So we're not getting the key messages out to the broader community. On the other hand, the media will often use fake news and misinterpret science, even if at times some of the stuff that they say is complete and utter nonsense, pretty much. So you'll find that almost on a daily basis, there'll be some crazy or wacky headline in magazines, in newspapers or social media. So it's best understood through some examples. And a lot of the examples I'll provide tonight are from the Daily Mail. And you know, every country has a newspaper like this. And they have some sort of bizarre obsession with dividing all foods into ones that cause and ones that prevent cancer. So you'll find, over the last few weeks, I've looked at some of the articles in the Daily Mail, and some foods that cause cancer include grapefruit soup, tea and coffee. Whereas some foods that prevent cancer include yogurt, grapes, tea and coffee. So already you can see there are some contradictions. So just going a little bit off the topic from food, the Daily Mail also has some sort of bizarre obsession with dividing, everyday inanimate objects into ones that cause and prevent cancer. So just as an FYI, some things that cause cancer include being male, left-handedness, and having a large head as a baby. Now, worryingly, I tick all of these boxes, especially the last one. Like, look at the size of that head. So if anyone's wondering which one I am, I'm the one that looks like E.T. on the left. So you'll find that a lot of the fake news stories in the media, they'll fall into three main categories. And that includes wacky stories, scare stories, and scientific breakthrough stories. So what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to go through a couple of examples of some of the fake news stories that I've seen in the media. And I'm going to unpick the science behind this. And in doing so, I'm not being nasty, I'm not being pedantic. Critically appraising research is something we do on an everyday basis. And all research has limitations, and it's about trying to minimize these. And it's especially important for this topic because some people may follow unhealthy dietary advice based on something that they've read in the media. And this can lead to detrimental effects on health in the long term. So let's have a look at the first story. So according to this, a glass of wine a day is more beneficial than 1 hour going to the gym. That's great. So you don't have to listen to Jordan's presentation after this, which shows the benefit of strength training. You can just sit there, relax, enjoy your wine, and live a long, happy and healthy life. Sounds too good to be true? I'm afraid it is. So first of all, look at who the article is from, the Winerist. So I think they may have some sort of ulterior motive with this article. So they may have had a slow week on the sales, previous to this article, and they're trying to increase the sales of wine. But they say that science proves it. So if science proves it, it must be true. So let's have a look at the science behind it. So I was able to track down the published article of this. And this article is very, very misleading. So first of all, the experiment was conducted in mice. And the benefits of wine were not from the wine itself. It was from a compound within the wine called resveratrol. And resveratrol can be found, in the skin of grapes, in roots and in berries. And there's interest in this because it has antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and anti-cancer effects. However, to consume the amount of resveratrol used in the animal studies, you would need to have around about 10 to 12 bottles of wine per day to meet what they've used in that. And that's not recommended for obvious reasons. So almost like clockwork, every Christmas and Easter, there'll be an article saying that chocolate is good for you. And according to this article, chocolate is a miracle food because it can make you live longer. It does not contribute to weight gain. It boosts appetite, which is a little bit contradictory, and it's nutritious. So yeah, head on down to Coles after this, stock up your trolleys with your Kit Kats, your dairy milks, and you'll be right. So yeah, again, sounds too good to be true, and I'm afraid it is. So let's have a look at the science behind these claims. So the first one, it says that chocolate makes you live longer. And this was done in a large study in 8,000 men, and it's shown that those that ate chocolate lived up to a year longer than those that didn't eat chocolate. But this was only for people who had chocolate up to 3 times per month. Now I don't know about you, but that's not a lot of chocolate. And there was no beneficial effects for those that had chocolate more than 3 times per month. And you'll find that a lot of the studies that focus on the benefits of chocolate will look at the cocoa extracts rather than chocolate as a whole. And as you're aware, chocolate contains a lot of fat and sugar, which can contribute to obesity, which then leads on to chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, etc. So let's have a look at the next 2 claims. So they say chocolate does not make you put on weight. And then literally in the next paragraph, it says the complete opposite. And it says chocolate can boost appetite, which is great if you want to put on weight. Both of these do not reference any evidence to support the claims. The first one just says nutritionists say. Like which nutritionist, who said it, where is there evidence to back up the claims? And then the last one is that chocolate is nutritious. So you'll find that a lot of the fake news stories in the media, when they're trying to make out unhealthy foods to be healthier than what they are, they'll focus on the vitamin and mineral content. So this one says chocolate contains 1.2 milligrams of iron and 45 milligrams of magnesium. But to meet the recommended daily intake of those, you need to consume about 7 bars per day. And this is much higher in females aged 19 to 50, as their iron intake requirements are much higher. So they would need to have about 15 bars per day to meet this 1.2 milligrams of iron. So the detrimental effects of having 15 bars of chocolate per day will outweigh any benefit that these minerals possess. So the last article, so forget everything that you've ever been told about fruits and veg, because according to this, it's not actually good for you. So this article, the author, the whole spin of the article is centered around selling this controversial diet book. And she goes on to say that fruit and veg are nutritionally useless. But within the article, she says, So she's a Cambridge graduate, and she's studying a PhD in nutrition. So it's very easy to believe that what she's saying is true. But because of the dodgy claims that she was making, I was a little bit skeptical about what this person was saying. So I did a little bit of research on this person, and I found out that her degree at Cambridge was in maths and economics, which isn't really related to nutrition. And I couldn't find anywhere that she was studying a PhD in nutrition. But I did find an interview with another scientist from a few years ago who was contesting some of the claims she made, because they were really outlandish claims. And actually during this interview, she admitted she wasn't studying a PhD in nutrition, but she was thinking about doing one. So I don't know if that's changed since then, but that was the case when the newspaper article came out. And that's often the problem, in that you'll get a non-expert claiming to be an expert, spouting utter rubbish, but people will believe, what they're saying because they're well liked. And every country has someone like this, a TV diet guru who's on primetime television offering lavish and outlandish health advice. I'm not going to mention any names, but you're probably aware of a couple of these in Australia. What was that? Oh, didn't see that. So the article then goes on to say, she says, fruit and veg are nutritionally useless and they have very little to offer. She says, dietitians and nutritionists will reject her arguments, but the science backs her up. So I had a look at the science behind it again, and what she does is she cherry picks one article which shows, very little benefit of fruit and veg. But she doesn't provide the reference to this article, so we don't know the limitations of this article. It could be very highly biased, and we don't know the problems of it. The best form of evidence is not from one study, it's from all the studies which have been conducted on this topic over time. And this is something in research we call a systematic review and a meta-analysis. It sounds complex, but basically what they'll do is they'll get all the studies which have looked at fruit and veg and their association with disease risk. And these will be combined, and they'll be weighted towards those which are methodologically better, and they'll come up with a conclusion as to whether fruit and veg is good or bad for you. So I actually tracked down a recent systematic review of 95 studies, and they found that fruit and veg was associated with reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and all-cause mortality. And it supports the public health recommendations that fruit and veg are good for you. And these are what are used when they create the national dietary guidelines. So it's whether you believe the results of that one study or the results of 95 studies conducted over time combined together. So how do you spot fake news? So you're probably aware of some of the tricks based on what I've mentioned so far, but if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So I'm afraid you can't chuck out all your fruit and veg and have chocolate and wine for your breakfast, lunch and dinner every day, even though that would be very good to do. Try and track down the article if it's provided. If not, be skeptical. They're probably trying to hide something, but 9 times out of 10, they won't provide a reference within the media. It will always state, according to science, or this scientific proof, or the science backs me up. Check the sponsor or who the article is from. Is there an ulterior motive? They'll often state that sensible health advice is outdated or unreliable. And they'll pick out the components of food, such as the resveratrol or the cocoa extracts, rather than looking at the whole content of the food. And they'll cherry pick the results of one study rather than looking at the whole picture. So where can you find some trusting and evidence-based information? So we have the National Dietary Guidelines, and these are created by experts from all over Australia, and they'll combine all the systematic reviews on certain foods, and the ones that are associated with reduced risk of diseases are the ones which are advised to consume in larger amounts in the dietary guidelines, and the ones that increase risk of a disease are the ones that are, you're advised to consume in lesser amounts. There's also the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, which Tracy touched on earlier, and that's a visual representation of the guidelines. And there's also the Cochrane Library, which is a non-for-profit organisation, and they do a number of different systematic reviews. So if you see an article in the media on whether a type of food is related to a disease, if you look on the Cochrane Library, that's the most the best form of evidence you can look at, and it'll be the one that is most true. So I've also got this image here, which also shows the media outlets, reporting the different science reports. So we've got the ones that are evidence-based driven by the ones which are compelling to read. So the ones in the top left-hand corner are evidence-based. So if there's a diet story within one of those, it's more than likely going to be true. However, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, these are the ones which are pure garbage, as it says in the corner. I don't know if that's an actual magazine or if that's what they are. And you'll see the Daily Mail makes an appearance there. So just to end this talk, I've got a short video clip of a comedian from the UK, and he pretty much sums up everything that I've talked about today, but puts a light-hearted spin on it. So yeah, we'll just play that for you just to end. You'll just have to YouTube it later or something. But yeah, thanks a lot everyone. Cheers. Cheers. Oh yeah.